Hey everybody, A-Spec here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Forza Horizon 5 initial drive trailer from a sort of more of an engineering perspective than really a reaction perspective. Like, how realistic is it really from an engineering point of view? I watched it one time before, these crazy car drops into the wilderness of Mexico. How real are they? And does it even make sense? Well, let's find out. And this is going to be in-depth, kind of going into some stuff that really popped into my mind as far as engineering and physics, and really the dynamics of doing such things, like, are going to be in this trailer. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so they're in a cargo plane. They're taking the new Bronco off the back. Let's hit A. Alright. Going backwards. Presumably in neutral. Giant parasail. And dropping it pretty far. I don't know, I think that would break the suspension. Or at least do some major damage. I'm not sure that's realistic. I'm not sure that's entirely realistic. But we're going to just go on trailer. Right? I love the music cueing. Like, the second the thing hits the ground, the main chorus of the song kicks in. That was nice.
Bienvenidos a México! See you on the other side! Follow that car! Past me!
And right there, we hit 181, I think it was, miles an hour? Yeah, it was 181 miles an hour in a Bronco. And that just goes to show you this 10R80 transmission, the Ford 10-speed, is definitely, at least in this application, tuned for economy. So, up in that 10th gear, I'd say at 60 miles an hour, you'd be doing 1500 RPM or below. So that's really going to, in the real world, help with the EPA estimate fuel economy, as well as the fleet regulations that are going on. I don't know if they're still doing this, but the 54.5 mpg fleet average by 2025, at least it used to be a thing. So that's mainly what this gearbox is designed for. It's about that fuel economy, which more and more automakers are starting to put more gears in their transmissions, because not only does it allow you to stay in the power band more often when you're accelerating, but it also allows you to stay in that efficiency sweet spot and keep your engine at the optimal load for efficiency. So definitely not going to be able to do this in a Bronco on flat ground, but on the downhill, man, this 10R80 transmission can gear long.
There might be a little bit of traffic ahead. Watch out!
And another transmission thing, it was in 9th gear. Watch this for a second.
Traffic ahead. Watch out!
7. So, a little unrealistic there. it behaved more like a manual transmission or like a sequential transmission, where you gear down one at a time. So in the 10R80 transmission and many, many, many other automatics, actually going all the way back to the 4-speed days, you can change down multiple gears at once, no problem. That's not really an issue for these transmissions. I just wish they would get that tuned a little bit better, like program automatic transmissions to be able to go down 2 gears at once. You can even do that in a manual. I mean, presumably they're using the automatic transmission preset as far as difficulty, but just make it gear down 2 gears at once if you really need to be in the power band. Like if you're in 9th and you want to be in 7th, just go down to 7th. It's no big deal for these modern transmissions. I like that turbo spool sound. That was nice because they have the 4-cylinder 2-liter turbo in the Bronco. Nice that they include that. And I hope we'll be able to hear it from the cabin when we finally tried this thing in game. If you can hear the turbo spool. I know our my parents and grandparents' Acura RDX, you can barely hear the turbo spool. And we drove, what was it, 2015, 2016? We went out to Europe, Poland, Germany, all over Europe, Austria, but we drove a Ford Mondeo, basically a Fusion, but wagon. Pity they don't sell them here, but it's a shame they don't sell them here. But it had a turbo 4-cylinder engine in it, and you roll the windows down, you could hear the turbo spooling during acceleration. So I hope you'll be able to hear it in the Bronco. And maybe with an upgraded turbo, it might be even better. Alright, another plane.
Making new friends, eh? You go enjoy yourself. I have to go make another delivery. Drop zone approaching. Lovely day for a drive.
And they're driving the Corvette here. Really, actually pretty accurate that you would drop a lower ground clearance car from a lower height, and if you could hear it, the driver, they seem to be revving the engine and upshifting the transmission in preparation for the drop, which is also pretty accurate, because you absolutely would not want to be in first gear when you're dropping at 70 miles an hour like he is, or like the driver is, they are, because 70 miles an hour in first gear, you blow your engine, you over-rev it. So nice attention to detail. They're revving the engine, they're upshifting, presumably, the transmission to prepare for that high-speed impact for the ground. The rear wheels are going to want to skid, and then they're going to want to catch up to the speed that you're already doing. So you are going to over-rev the engine fast if you don't change up or gear shift up in preparation for that launch. And they were at the top of 3rd gear, which I assume is pretty realistic, because you're not going to be going as fast. See, they were accelerating on the ground, and we didn't see the speedometer yet, because the head-up display hadn't loaded in yet. So we were probably doing somewhere around maybe 95, 100 miles an hour. So top of 3rd would be okay for that drop. But he was on the limiter in that before that run, so top of 3rd probably was it. What gear he was dropping in, or maybe slamming on the limiter in 2nd, because I did hear 1 gear shift before they hit the ground. So they first hit the limiter, and then 2nd paddle shift into 2nd before you hit the ground. May damage the engine in real life, but or may have damaged the engine a little bit, but or just bounce off the limit in a second. But he was not going 111 miles an hour when he hit the ground. They were accelerating a little bit. And I mean, it's pretty fast shifts you saw there, but it's not. I mean, it still behaves a little bit like a sequential transmission. It's not totally like a dual clutch, where you still have acceleration between shifts, like. Like you saw the acceleration, like it let off a little bit in gears. So if we go back a little bit, fourth to fifth shift was, it cut off a little, like the acceleration wasn't continuous, which it would be in a dual clutch, which is strange. Maybe an update could fix that, but or a change to the logic, the way it works, could fix that. But it's a little bit weird how it doesn't accelerate shifts. Like it's like more like a glorified sequential gearbox that's just shifting real fast than a dual clutch. And of course, in a dual clutch, you would have a sag in acceleration while the clutch is engaged, but the shifts would just be instantaneous, and it would not let off as far as acceleration goes during the shifts. You would probably get a mile an hour extra as it shifts, maybe.
Outtrack the storm! No sigue adelante! Keep going!
I don't know. I wouldn't see a dust storm happening in this kind of biome. I would think it would happen more way out in the desert, away from everything else that could alter the wind patterns. But if anyone else in the comments has experienced these dust storms, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But just that, I would think that they'd be more like far out in the desert, away from everything else, where the wind could really blow and kick up the dust. I would think it would be disrupted by these mountains, like change the wind patterns and maybe kind of reduce the intensity or completely prevent these kind of storms. But I digress. I'll drop it in the wrong place. Off it goes. Nice.
This could get a little rough.
And they conveniently cut away just as you're likely to put the parachute out of control.
Could get a little rough.
You hit that branch, you're probably going to be knocking the vehicle around because it could sway back and forth and just ruin the whole alignment of this thing, where it would end up banking back and forth and ending up losing control of it unless it's controlled in some way, stabilized.
Touchdown! Not even a scratch! The jungle awaits! Flamingos!
Well, wouldn't they have flown away long before the car actually approached? I don't know how their hearing is, but I would think they could hear a car approaching from a long way away. Because that's like maybe 100 feet or so? 77 miles an hour. Like less than a second and a half or so at 75 miles an hour. So. And I just think this will be one of my favorite places to go in this game. Sliding around in the mud, like with newer vehicles, like testing the limits of the stability control and traction control. Those kind of things, like how much grip can I get out of this one corner, or how quickly will it be able to correct a slide if I just yank the handbrake in this turn, or coming to a stop in the water and trying to accelerate out and seeing what the traction control does.
You through the bridge.
I'm going to rewind a little bit, just the fact that the water splashes off of the vehicle as it gains airspeed going down towards the river. That is realistic, because as you gain speed, especially things like brakes and tires that normally aren't exposed to the air in that sort of way, as you gain speed, they are going to want to splash water out in the direction the air is flowing. So that's pretty accurate in that manner.
¡Qué maravilla! You're not gonna believe your eyes when you see this! Keep going!
Again, they would have heard the car long before it actually came into their field of view.
This is the final drop! The whole festival is waiting! Go, go, go!
And nice to see their flaps are down on the plane, because they want to be flying, again, as slow as you can go, basically, because that limits the number of, or that reduces the number of gears you have to go through to get the wheel speed to match with the engine speed and prevent you from blowing your engine up. And this is the Mercedes-AMG 1. It's a hybrid supercar, and they just put that little startup sound in there because there is no starter, and the engine is likely to be off when the vehicle first starts up, especially considering it's in the higher ride height mode, which I assume is some sort of comfort or normal hybrid mode, where you push the button, no engine, and the electric system, subsystems just boot up. But I would assume that I think it would be pretty hard to hear what actually would be happening when the systems boot up, so they just put that sound in there. That's probably not going to be there in the real game, but it'll be hard to hear what actually happens, which is the inverter cooling fans and stuff like that boot up, where the inverter is a component that converts battery power into three-phase AC power to drive the motors. So they're using brushless motors in these hybrids, so they've got to have alternating current to drive them. So the inverters take quite a bit of power, create quite a bit of heat, so they need cooling fans.
This is the final drop! The whole festival is waiting! Go, go, go!
And it's accurate that they don't drop it from very high. This is a pretty low car, actually. And you see the wing is coming up as the vehicle comes out of the plane, which is going into race mode, and it's presumably starting up the engine and preparing the vehicle for maximum performance. So these little spoilers there and the wing back there are going up, and just giving you a maximum amount of downforce, which wouldn't really be accurate because you're jumping down onto a hard surface. You'd want it to be the highest ride height possible. Most likely want to choose the comfort mode, but I assume they're taking some creative liberty with this. They don't want you to need to switch into race mode, so they're just putting in a race mode for you. And update, I found this out from the Forza Horizon developers. You can, at least in this car, actually switch the modes between street and race. So I hope we get an EV mode where you can actually drive without the engine, and if you accelerate hard, it'll switch the engine on and give you that power. So just something I'm hoping for. I doubt this is going to be in the game, but I hope this is going to be, this is just wishful thinking on my part.
What do you say? First to the festival wins? Vámonos!
Horizon, this is Mexico. We've already had cars falling out of the sky, but all eyes are on the superstar making their way to the festival right now.
And just as they accelerate onto that turn, you hear inverter whine, which is realistic. A lot of power going through those inverters, and it makes some sound. So that's accurate on their part.
If you've just arrived at Horizon Mexico, then you are in for a treat, my friend. Get ready for the biggest Horizon adventure of your life. Did you hear that? Well, that is the last inbound cargo flight racing neck and neck with an AMG-1. So strap yourselves in, Horizon. I've seen this driver before, and trust me, they know how to make an entrance.
And I'd expect to lose some speed on that part, and it doesn't seem like it's modeled. You know, 214 over the gravel. I'd expect more drag on the gravel. I mean, a lower top speed. But I do actually see some wheel spin. Because they're in 7th gear, 10,000 RPM, and the RPM seems to spike when they go over this gravel. So they are picking up some wheel spin going over there. I just expect the speed to drop. Or maybe the acceleration is just dropping, I don't know. And there's not really a huge impact on the speed. There we go, 215 miles an hour. So the acceleration was hindered maybe a little bit by the gravel, but really I'd expect the speed to drop. more prominently. So 215, 216 maybe at the end. Wow, that was pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to playing it on my channel and giving you even more insight into real-world automotive technology and how this game compares. I know it's probably not going to be completely realistic as far as systems go, like the hybrid systems, or things like active aerodynamics, things like that, all the stuff that makes modern cars cool. Torque vectoring, I don't expect. I know rear-wheel steering is confirmed, but I'm not sure which cars will have it. Alright. If you've got any questions about Forza Horizon 5, or anything else you'd like me to review, just leave them in the comments. And this is A-Spec, signing out.